So next up, I'm going to play a little on this Kingma bass flute. And you said this is a large bore instrument.
Yeah, for many years I built small bore basses, closed hole, B-foot, open holes, full Kingman system. And I started to work with Albert Cooper, and he gave me he made 3 basses himself, and they were very powerful, but he gave me all his measurements and the taper for the head joint, the mandrel.
Very cool.
And it took a long time to find my way how to make it work. But this is still the very first one, 14 years ago, but it always worked. I always take it with me to conventions, and it has a very strong sound, very powerful. And I think it depends on what you would like to do with it. This is great for flute choirs, for flute quartets. I think the small bore is more interesting for contemporary playing,
more
for multiphonics with the harmonics, and it's more focused. This is more typical low bass, and with the small bore you can do the modern stuff with it.
Okay, very cool. There we go. Excuse me, that was me. Bunch of trucking. Very nice. Again, I'm just always really impressed by how comfortable the instruments are, and again, for somebody who doesn't play the low flutes very often, very easy to get just a big, powerful sound. So this is the Kingma and Brannan bass flute, and these come standard, if you can see, with 2 open holes.
On E and A.
And you can plug those, or if you're brave, you can leave them open. This flute is substantially lighter than the last bass flute that I played. You said that was 100 grams difference. So especially if you're going to be holding it for a while for a flute choir concert, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and we worked hard on the ergonomics and also to make it really work well for people with small hands.
Yeah.
And this one has a B foot, and in a way the balance, because the instrument is so much lighter than a lot of other instruments, then with the B foot the balance is really working well.
They do sometimes feel top heavy. This does not.
And with all the flutes, it's all the same story. People can always get a choice between different head joints.
So, what do we have here?
This is an open hole alto flute, the Kingma and Brannan alto. They are mainly ordered by people who are in the contemporary field. The hand position is a bit more down. It requires a little more stretching. This is a gold-plated closed hole one. The position of your hands is more comfortable, and this one, it's in a way my main instrument. I build it as the #1 instrument in my flute family. Usually the companies have like the C flute, piccolo. On the side, second or third instrument is an alto or a bass. I really worked for more than 25 years to get it in the way it is now. Together with Bigford Brannan, he really, when he sold the Brannan company, I begged him to start working with me on the technical part, and he completely redesigned the keywork and brought it to a high level. I think it's really wonderful what he did.
Beautiful flute.
And it's a very ergonomically friendly instrument.
This is very comfortable, yes. Yeah. And what I was surprised with earlier when we were talking is that these 2 instruments play very differently. So I'd like to do just a quick sample on both because they do have very different sound. Let's start with this guy. And it's not often that you see a gold-plated alto flute. So
no.
That's very cool. And for me, I have to plug the last hole. So my fingers are Not long enough. Totally different sound. So I asked you this earlier. Customers will often ask us, why open hole? What is the advantage? What do you?
Well, for contemporary, I worked for many years together with Robert Dick, and as we all know, he can only do his repertoire on open holes.
Yeah.
And that's where also the idea about a full Kingman system on the C flute started. As long as the keys are not open, you are limited in what you can do. And now I'm working for many years with Matthias Ziegler, which is the same. It's a challenge to see what I can work out in a comfortable way to make it work for players like this. And there's no end. It always goes on.
Yes, always changing.
Yeah.
Pushing the limits, right?
Exactly. And it can also be adjusted for what works best for people. And when I ship instruments, usually people try to come over to pick up the new instrument, spend 2 days here. And I've got a testing room upstairs with different head joints, so people select a head and I bring them back to the station, they go to the airport. Or I ship 3 head joints with it, and then they can take like 2 weeks and make a choice. And that usually always works.
Yeah.